Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very glad to be here to share my experience in the past years for both GRF and ECS applications. Well, I'm much more junior than Susani, so my experience is fairly limited. So I think the experience I'm trying to share is based on my limited understanding about how to do the proposals. I understand there are different ways of writing a GRF proposal, but my way of writing the proposal is just the same as I write the introduction of any of my papers. It's a much shorter introduction. So it's like writing a paper without any data. So it could be good or bad, especially when you have really strong data. Without having the data would be really a handicap. But sometimes when your data is really lousy, actually it's good for you to write a proposal without having any data at all. I'm a kind of, when I write a proposal, I think I'm a kind of idea person, so I care a lot about my ideas. So it's all about choosing, for me, it's all about choosing a great idea which will have a higher likelihood of being funded. So the typical first set of questions I ask myself is, am I gonna do a brand new proposal based on a brand new idea? Or should I just build on my past research by doing something incremental? So regardless of what I do, I must convince myself that whatever I do, there must be new theoretical contribution, which is so important, not only to this proposal, but also to this potential paper. In my personal views, I think some of the ideas can lead to a great paper, but they may not be a great proposal. So I will have more examples to illustrate this when I compare two different proposals. So personally, I applied 4 times as a PI. Since I came here, I was very lucky to get funded 3 times, but I did get 1 failure. So I got the same feeling as Susani got, so don't feel bad about it. So we all got failed experience. So some of the comments from the summaries of the RGC panel, so the good proposals basically receive very positive comments. I'm just gonna skip this slide, right? And this is from the unsuccessful application. So basically, I only got 2 reviewers for this proposal, right? So one of them really hated my proposal very much. So I think most of these comments are from this single reviewer, and he or she does not think my theoretical foundation is clear. So the concepts, all the definitions are not clear. I will talk a little bit more about this proposal, this idea, right? So basically, this reviewer also says, it's the concept I'm studying is a multi-dimensional construct, right? So you need to figure out how to measure it, right? So you overemphasize on one paper. I really don't like this particular comment. I agree with many of the other points, but this is a published paper from management science, right? So basically, you cannot really blame a paper which has been accepted. Even this reviewer even blames the editor for being not so responsible for allowing this paper to be published. He or she thinks my literature review is inadequate, right? So I need to ascertain the cultural value differences in terms of the conceptualization and the interpretation of the concept. So I proposed 5 studies, and the reviewers does not think that the 5 studies build upon each other. I used probably 3 out of 5 studies based on scenario studies, and apparently this reviewer does not like scenario studies at all. I did not have any pilot data, so that was another point, another comment I received from this reviewer. So as you can see, well, typically when you got your proposal funded, you got very positive comments, as opposed to when you got your proposal not funded, you got really negative comments. Right, so my comparison is based on 2 proposals, based on 2 different outcomes. One was funded, in last year, but the other one was not funded. Right? You have seen the negative comments. So the two ideas are kind of similar in terms of their theoretical contribution. Right, so for my funded proposal, the idea is about the punishment and trust dilemma. So basically, if you are familiar with the trust literature, when we trust other people, we rely on three major contributors: this person's ability, integrity, and benevolence. So the past research basically shows that these three constructs are separate, but they are highly correlated. And in this proposal, I look at a potential conflict between two different contributors, which is the benevolence and the integrity. Right? For punishers, when you punish other people, when you punish wrongdoers, you create this kind of trust dilemma because you will score low on your benevolence when you punish other people, but when you punish wrongdoers, you tend to score high on your integrity. Right? So that's the common dilemma. And the proposal, which was not funded, was about a dilemma between white lies and people's trust. Right? So this is white lies are lies we tell to help other people instead of hurting them. Right? So it's kind of similar when you tell white lies to help other people to make them feel happy. You tend to be benevolent, but lying is lying. You tend to score low on your integrity. Right? So these two ideas are based on very similar theoretical contributions, right? But the outcome was pretty different. I think in hindsight, I think for the punishment and trust proposal, punishment is a very well-established literature, so is trust, right? So what I'm doing here new is to bridge two different literatures to address the limitation. Right? People have not really studied the potential conflict between punishment and trust. So I can cite a lot of other people's work. Right? But for white lies and trust is a well-established literature. White lies are not. So people have not studied white lies empirically, although they are theoretical pieces. Right? So there are not many empirical papers on white lies. So by the time when I wrote this proposal, I had to cite this paper because that was probably the only empirical paper on white lies. And after 2 years or 3 years, there was one more, right? So which was published this year. And because white lies are pretty general, vague, hard to define, I got a lot of challenges from this particular reviewer who does not really like the idea. Right? So it's common, people like creative ideas only when you can sell your creative ideas. But when you're selling your ideas too new, sometimes people don't really accept your ideas. I think that's probably the major reason why I got one proposal funded, but the other proposal failed, because one is new, the other is probably too new. Some other thoughts in terms of my general feeling about what you should do when you write a proposal based on my limited experience again. So I personally would like to propose each time something interesting because when I get really bored by the idea, I don't really have the motivation to continue the project, even if it gets funded. So writing is important. You should be really clear and concise when you write the proposal, especially because of the page limit, right? You don't really have a lot of space to write a long review, so you have to be very clear and concise. Literature review is also important. Don't ignore the most recent work. You have to really check out each of the recent research papers. If you can get some of the working papers from people who are studying similar topics, you should really cite those working papers too. In terms of your methods, I think you can be very thoughtful and creative because you don't necessarily have to do exactly the same design you have proposed. Right? So sometimes it does not work, sometimes it works, you never know, but in your proposal, I think your design can be really creative. That is something I typically use some multiple studies with triangulation of different designs. I think this is probably the final slide. So of course, the chairman does not think luck plays a role. Right? Personally, for me, I think sometimes luck doesn't matter, and I'm sorry for the disagreement. I think statistically, we are looking at the population, but individually, you cannot really explain your personal luck, right? So that is the the reason why sometimes you can some people can survive cancer, but when you look at the statistics, it's just horrible. Right. So when you have fewer reviewers, so twice I got only 2 reviewers. Right? So I was lucky once I got funded for that proposal, but for the second time, it was not funded. When you only got 2 reviewers, you have to have both of them buy your proposal. Right. So if one of them does not like your idea, well, it's doomed to fail. Just keep trying. If you are not lucky enough this time, I think luck probably will come next time. The last point is my personal strategy. I don't really write something for this proposal only. So when I propose something, I just use this as an opportunity to create a new project. So I don't really write a proposal for the sake of writing a proposal. After I submit my proposal each year, so I just work on the proposal even before the outcome comes out next year. That's because I have a year to work on this proposal. For the field project, I got, of course, I did not get any funding, but I got 2 papers out of it. Right? So both papers are under review now. I think it's better outcome than having a proposal which could not give you any papers. So that's my strategy. I think it's also another idea which you could keep some of your original ideas. I think the majority of the reviewers will be great, right? So, but sometimes there might be some bad apples who may steal your idea, right? So if you just write something for the proposal only, right? So it may not be your idea in the future. So I think that's what I want to share about my experience, and good luck. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. Are there any questions for Dr. Wang? Questions? Yes.
No, as the opportunity, you keep on applying for the ECS. But I noticed that you start with GRF and then switch back to the ECS. The order of the
Yeah. So okay. The reason was when I submitted my first proposal, that was the year when RGC created ECS. So I did not know much about it until the last minute. I was lazy enough to write some, additional things like the education plan because I did not know nothing about it. I decided to go with GRF, and later I learned more about ECS. I applied for ECS in my last year because that was the last time I could apply for ECS. I would not be eligible again, in next year. So that was the only reason.
Thank you. Is there any more? This one.
Hi, thank you for sharing with us. I'm just curious. I think it is a good strategy to write a proposal where you want to publish something, right? But maybe this is probably a question more for the panel than because will they come back and say, well, they don't know that we're publishing it and are ready so that we ensure that we have a publication in year 1 or year 2 and make sure that we get a publication before the completion report, right? But do we get reviewers sometimes, so somebody's saying, oh, your project is doable without funding, so why ask for funding? So how do we manage to strike the fine balance, you think?
Okay, if I understand your questions right, I never got comments like that because each time when I proposed the idea, it's brand new, right? So, but after I submitted my proposal, I will work on it regardless of the outcome. So, my belief is that reviewers basically judge my proposal based on the merit of my proposal, right? The quality, not.
Right. So it's kind of normal that without funding, if we pursue with it, that that project probably will be doable, although maybe with great stress. Is that,
Well,
is that
it's-
how we view the whole thing? I mean,
Well, it's doable because I still like the idea. Of course, I made changes, why I look at the comments from the reviewer, for example. I change things which I think necessary. But I mean, even for funded proposals, I got an internal funded proposal and CityU, and it did not work out. So I collected 2 rounds of data from the U.S., from China, and the topic was just too sensitive. I got a very low quality data. In the end, I had to write a theory paper to finish the project, right? So that's a different kind of story. I think there are uncertainties for sure about finishing your proposal, right? So I think there will be different strategies. But one concern when you get your proposal funded is that you have to finish it, right, satisfactorily. So I don't know when we are required to have publications, but I'm still trying to get the first paper published, right? So my strategy was different from my first funded proposal because I did not do nothing until the proposal got funded. Right? So I waited till, and then I got confused by the internal procedure. I did not do nothing till like the first half a year. I got delayed, and then first couple studies did not work well. So I just recently, got this paper. I'm still working on it. So hopefully, I'm lucky enough to get the paper accepted. But I'm not that hopeful before my proposal expires. So yeah. But after that, I changed my strategy. I thought, well, I should do something early.
Okay, I think we still have time for one more question. Is there any more question? Well, if not, thank you, Dr. Wang. Please be seated.